So I've been thinking about selfishness a little bit, especially today. Just kind of praying for a video idea of what to say, and that's kind of what I felt. I opened up Philippians and was reading in Philippians 2, and Philippians 2:4 is talking about how we shouldn't care about our own interest, but also the interest of others. And as I thought about that idea of caring about other people's interest and not being selfish, caring about others and caring about their interest, I see a lot of similarities with what I feel called to do. I see a lot of similarities with God's character and things of that nature. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about it today because I think in society today at large, we just grow more and more selfish, and it's intentional and it's purposeful. The enemy is tailoring what we interact with, the way we interact with things, specifically to make people very selfish and to very self-centered, very self-focused. Feminism makes women very focused on themselves. Toxic masculinity makes men only focus on themselves. Social media makes you care only about yourself, your profile, your jobs, the things you do. It's all about what are you going to do with your life. Everything is very selfish. It's very much about you. Your life is about you. You make the most of it. It's yours. No one can take that away from you. It's yours. So you have the right to do whatever you want with your life, so to speak. And if you're kind of aware, you understand that that's going around, and that's kind of the popular philosophy or ideology that society kind of lives by, is very much this individualistic, self-centered mindset that you worry about you, do the best you can, and if you're so lucky, someone else will come along and you can fit that together with them, and that's how you can get married and da-da-da-da. But that's why everything is the way it is, and that's why things are going downhill in society, is because we are so selfish and we're not really worried about others. But the funny thing is we're supposed to be purely focused on other people and focused on their needs and their wants, and that's really how you help people in the world, obviously, but that's also how you become the most fulfilled with your life, is when you start to help and serve others. Our calling as a Christians is to help other people. It's to focus on others. And I was thinking about the character of God and how he's selfless, right? It says God is love. And the funny thing about God is a paradox. That's why our minds can't really understand God and his character, is because things seem contradictory, but they're not, because our mind can't understand paradoxes. How can two things that seem contradictory be true? But God can be selfish and loving. In fact, when God is selfish, he is loving, because love is his character and that's who he is. So the more selfish that God is, the more loving he is, meaning that the more selfish God is, the more he cares about his creation. So the more selfish God is, the more selfless he is. And it's just an interesting combination, and honestly, it ties into our DNA and our character and the way that we're made as human beings, because we are the most fulfilled, we are the most productive, we are the best versions of ourselves when we go out of our way to love and be selfless and help other people and put our own wants, needs, and desires to the side. And we say, you know what, despite how I feel, despite my ambitions, despite what I want to do, I'm going to serve somebody else. And that's where, as human beings, we reach our fullest potential, is actually in being the most selfless that we can. Think about it in a marriage. The more selfless you are in your marriage, the more it'll grow, the more fruitful it will be. The more selfless you are with your life, the more fruitful it will be. And it was funny as I was thinking about this, because my daily habits and the way my life is, I'm very self-centered and I'm very alone. I'm very much just kind of keep to myself, and I don't have a lot of people I interact with. And I was just laughing to myself, because I'm like, I need to start putting a mirror behind this camera, because I'm talking directly to myself. And I want to remind y'all of that every time you watch a video of mine. I'm not on here to tell you how to live your life. I'm simply here expelling the way I understand my faith, the way I understand Christianity, the way I understand the world. but I'm directly speaking to myself, because a lot of times I keep things inside and I don't share. And like I said, I've been needing to share. But I need to put a mirror behind, because this is a message directly for myself, to stop being selfish and stop worrying about me and thinking that the more selfish I will be, the more productive I will be. Because like I said, it's the opposite. The more selfless you are, the better you will be, the more you will grow. And I think this is interesting, especially when you think about like self-improvement and things like that. There's a lot of that going around, especially kind of in, I don't want to say the world, but you know how your social media content is catered to a specific interest or whatever. Well, mine's very much wrapped up in kind of a self-improvement deal. As I try to work on myself, obviously that's the content that I kind of watch. And everybody's kind of in that world is just focused on themselves, and they're focused on becoming the best versions of themselves, which, yes, is a good goal and a good thing to have. You always want to improve as a person. You don't want to just not care about who you are. But it's so self-focused and so self-analytical of like your personality and who you are, that there's not a lot of room for doing things for other people. And there's not a lot of messages speaking about how you improve as a person when you are selfless, not when you're selfish. A lot of the self-improvement content is like, cut out the distractions in your life, get lonely, and figure it all out. And, make a routine. And, there's good things to that. It can be positive if you have toxic people in your life, or you have, bad influences that you want to get rid of. But we should never cut out anything in our life and never replace it with something. And especially if you're, growing in your faith and you're trying to get away from the world, as you cut things off from the world, you have to put in spiritual things. You have to put in spiritual habits and things to replace those. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to really maneuver out of them. That kind of goes into with the lust thing too. Like, as you move away from that, you have to have a replacement. You have to have, in this moment, I'm going to do this. I'm going to switch routes and still have a focus in mind. But I just thought it was interesting thinking about selflessness and how bad it is in society. How much we don't worry about other people. How unconcerned we are with other people. And it's not productive. And it's not the best thing for you. And in fact, it's very toxic. It's very toxic to never care about other people. And I just thought the way it was worded in Philippians 2, it's Philippians 2:4 is the verse, that we shouldn't only be concerned with our own interest, but also the interest of others. And I was just thinking about how even in family structure or in the church, how you can still be so self-centered. Everything can be so lighthearted, very surface level, small talky, where you're still not really concerned about someone else's interest. And it can apply to every aspect of your life, because we worry about ourselves. Like, if you have an excess in income, what do you do with the excess money? You probably save it, or you're selfish with it. How selfless are we in our finances? How selfless are we with our time? Do we spend every moment of our days doing what we want to do, focused on my wants? Am I on the phone because I want to be on the phone? Am I wasting time watching TV because I want to watch TV? Or am I concerned with the needs of someone else? Am I giving away that money to someone else because I have what I need? I'm good. So I can go focus on the interest of others. I can be concerned with the interest of others. I just think we need to be constantly seeking to help people. We need to be constantly seeking in ways we can serve. And I think that's really what Christ's life was about, was servitude. If you looked at everything he did, he was a servant. He washed his disciples' feet. He died for us. He healed people. His whole life was spent living for others, not himself. And in living for others, he fulfilled what he was called to do, like what he was here to do, what he came down to do. And I think that's the same way for the believer. And not just the believer, but everybody. Because if you're not a believer, God has a plan for your life still. And it is servitude. And if you come to know Christ and you know Christ, you are now walking into your purpose, and your purpose and your calling is to do something for other people. We're called to share the gospel, but you're also called to use your talents and your abilities for servitude. And through that servitude is how you open up doors to preach the message, to spread the gospel, to love other people. Why does somebody want to hear the gospel from you if you're not willing to serve them? If you can't meet someone's needs, why are you confronting them with the gospel and telling them, well, you need to turn to Jesus? Why are we confrontational with people, but we're not able to be concerned with what their needs are? That's not servitude. You can even be selfish in the way that you try to be selfless. I think a lot of people don't understand that, because I've realized that too. Because we look at the outward, I'm being selfless because I'm giving. But are you giving in a way that they need? Or are you just giving to give because you want to gratify your own need to give? You want to look good in somebody else's eyes. I'm going to give because I know I should. But are you doing it out of selflessness? Are you doing it concerned for their needs? Or are you just giving to give? Like, are you just giving money to charity because it's like, that's the right thing to do? I should give money to them? You know what I'm saying? You have to be very self-analytical and understand, what are my intentions behind what I'm doing? And am I worried about me, or am I worried about others? And if you're not concerned with other people, then all your actions and the things you take are going to be selfish. And when you're selfish, you're trying to pull the strings of your own life. You're trying to control your own life. You're trying to make everything happen in your own life. But when you are selfless, you're pulling the strings for somebody else. And not in a controlling way, but you're making connections and helping them. So instead of trying to keep everything in balance in your own life, you're helping somebody else keep their balance up. And imagine if we all did that for each other. If we all were just concerned with helping each other get up, that's how you grow. And as I say that, there's another side to this that maybe we'll get into a little more. It's a new agey spiritual idea that is kind of becoming popular. A very much what is the best thing for humanity philosophy, which is concerned with, it is concerned with helping others, and it sounds great, but it's under the wrong, false spiritual pretense, void of Christ. And like I said, being selfless is being loving. If you don't know God, you can't really know love. And so any form of selflessness, I don't want to say any form, but being selfless, void of understanding love and void of Christ, I don't want to say it's useless, but it's not as productive as it could be, I guess is the best way to put it. Because I can't look at somebody and judge them and go, they don't know Christ and they're trying to do something good, but it's not good. It's not really a difference of good, it's more of a difference of righteousness. Because again, this life is not about pursuing happiness, but pursuing righteousness. And, if you're pursuing righteousness, then you're pursuing God and pure things, and you're understanding love. And if you don't know Christ and you're not pursuing righteousness, you're just pursuing good, well, you'll pursue the worldly understanding of good, which is not righteousness. And I think there's a big misconception within the modern church. I think there's a big misconception within Christians and the world at whole with what is good and bad, because it's not about what's good and bad, it's about what's righteous and evil. Because unrighteousness can look like righteousness, but righteousness is never going to look like unrighteousness. That's the difference, and that's where it can get deceptive, and that's why it's important, and that's why I continue to try to speak my mind about things, because I want to open up the door to those conversations. And maybe that can be the next video. That's a great idea now that we think about it. But yeah, man, I just want to come on here and remind you, the viewer, and me, like I said, looking in the mirror, to stop worrying about yourself and and put into practice and do things and pursue things that help other people. Create infrastructure in your life that allows for you to help other people and immediate people. Don't I think the worst thing we can do is look and go, how can we help somebody, and ignore the needs of our immediate peers, our immediate friends, our immediate family, and our immediate circle, and go, well, I'm just going to go serve here. And again, if you feel called, then of course you feel called, but we need to do more things for our families, you know? What are the needs of your daughters and your sons, of your mom, of your dad, of your cousins, of your friends, your closest friends? Like, what are their needs, you know? And how can you meet them? And it's a good conversation to have. It's a fruitful thing to think about. You know, Paul says to think on, it might be Paul, it might be misquoting, it might not be Paul. In the New Testament, it says, you know, whatever is pure, whatever is good, whatever is righteous, you know, think on these things. Whatever is fruitful, think on these things. We're called to think about these things, to put real effort and intentional time to think and go, what is fruitful? What is good? What is beneficial? Concern yourself with somebody else. What is fruitful for them? What could I genuinely do for them that is fruitful? What could I do that could change their life or make their day? And think about that. And if that's your daily focus, your relationships will inevitably improve. Your life will inevitably improve. Big words. And you'll become a better person. And I think that's the biggest thing, because I think so many people are concerned with being the best version of themselves, but they don't understand to do that, go out of your way and ignore your own wants and needs and just be selfless, because that's how you're going to reach the best version of yourself, is to help other people. It's very hard to reach your full potential if you're just worried about yourself. And the truth is, the reason reality is the way it is, the reason the economy is the way it is, the reason we see things like Epstein and we see things like wars and, you know, all these just things going on in reality that you would look at and go, oh, that's evil, is because it's selfish. It's because those people are concerned with themselves. When you think about, how could these people do these things? How could they allow this to happen? It's because they're selfish. And the world is going to be driven to a very dark place through selfishness. And then there's going to be something come along and promise a false future of selflessness. And we'll talk about that later. But that's where reality is headed. It's this shift. It's just going to keep getting more selfish until people are finally just like, you know what, this isn't working. We have to be selfless now. And it's going to look great because everybody's going to be united in that idea, because there's going to be unity. And everybody's going to be like, okay, now we just have to be selfless. And it's already happening now. You just have to be aware of what circles it's going on in, because I see it all the time. Go under any conspiracy theory account, or anybody kind of talking about, you know, I say conspiracy theories because that's what we call them nowadays. They're not conspiracies, but whatever. Go look at those kind of realms and see what's going on, and then see what people are saying underneath them. They're getting pretty fed up, and they're about ready for change. And they want humanity to unite, and they want us to be more loving and kind and more selfless. That's why I warn about the false, good selflessness that's not righteousness. But yeah, be selfless. It's just a reminder. We'll dig into the idea that I'm just kind of presenting right now, where it comes from, what it is. You know, I say the word New Age, you might not even know what that means. It's just false spirituality. There's different theories. I don't want to say theories. There's different philosophies. It doesn't matter. They all look the same. You just have to observe themes, kind of how I talked about in the reality video, of the thematics and the way reality works, because despite, like, whatever the philosophy is, you see certain themes. And so when you can see the themes, you know where to kind of group things. It's not like you can just box everything, but you can kind of group things together and go, that's very similar to this, so it's probably in this realm of thought. Same with anything else. Anyway, going off on a tangent. Be selfless, you know. Don't concern yourself just with your own things. Concern yourself with the things of others. And if you want to be the best version of yourself, worry about somebody else. If you're bored, if you don't know what to do, you're like, man, I don't know what to do with my life, or I'm bored, or go make somebody's day. You know, help somebody. If you're at home, what's your sister up to? What's your mom up to? What do they need help with? Start there and build up that habit. And you'll start to feel better, you know, and it can pull you out of dark places as well. So yeah, that's what I have. We'll be back soon with another vid. Thank you for watching. I'm out of here.